Assalamu alaikum students. The students of class 8, how are you students? I hope you all are fine and missing school. My name is Mrs. Gulshan Ara and I am here to welcome you in the session 2020 to 2021. I will teach you journal science. As you all know that we study journal science into three portions: biology, chemistry and physics. So you have to make three separate interleave copies for each. Today I give you explanation of the first chapter of biology, that is microorganisms. Dear students, you have studied plants and animals in previous classes. Now you will study about a large number of organisms which cannot be seen with naked eyes. They can only be seen through a microscope. So the students, what are microorganisms? Microorganisms are the organisms which are too small, which cannot be seen by a naked eye. They can only be seen by the microscope. These organisms are called microorganisms or microbes. And the study of microorganisms is called microbiology. Microbiology is a branch of biology in which we study about the microorganisms. And the scientists who study microorganisms are called microbiologists. Microorganisms are found everywhere: in air, in water, in soil, inside the water bodies, and even in polar regions. They are present on and inside the bodies of microorganisms are capable of existing in extreme conditions of temperature and dryness by forming a hard outer covering called cyst. When the conditions become favorable, they come out of their cyst, multiply, and go through their life cycles. It means microorganisms exist in every condition. They may be exist in severe conditions like extreme hotness and extreme coldness by making the cyst over them. Microorganisms may be unicellular, means they have one cell, for example bacteria and protozoa, and they may be multicellular, means more than one cell, such as fungi. Some can live alone, for example amoeba, while others occur in groups. These groups are called colonies, and for example bacteria and fungi are those microorganisms which live in groups. Microorganisms play an important role in human life. Dear students, these microorganisms are not only harmful to us but also beneficial for us. They provide us many positive things. So they are beneficial to us as well as harmful to us. Now, types of microorganisms. There are many types of microorganisms, but here we study about only 5 major types of microorganisms. Number 1, bacteria. Number 2, fungi. Number 3, algae. Number 4, protozoa. And number 5, viruses. So, first we discuss bacteria. Bacteria are single-celled organisms. It means they have one cell. They are unicellular. They may be rod-shaped. For example, bacilli, they are spherical in shape. For example, cocci, they may be spiral in shape. Spiralium, they may be comma shaped. Vibrio. All the shapes are given in the slide also. You can observe here. And the second type of microorganisms are fungi. Fungi may be unicellular or multicellular. They lack chlorophyll, means they do not have chlorophyll, so they do not make their own food. They depend on dead and decaying organic matter. They take food from other living matter. Okay, so the fungi are the examples of fungi are yeast and penicillium. The third type of microorganisms are algae. Algae are also unicellular as well as multicellular. They are plant-like. They uh, when we see them, they're just like plant, but they do not have roots, leaves, and stem. They have chlorophyll like plants, so they carry out photosynthesis to make their own food. For example, Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra. The other type of microorganisms are protozoans. Protozoans are unicellular organisms. They are also included in invertebrates and they are in phylum Protozoa. They have animal-like structure, animal-like characteristics, and the example of protozoa are amoeba and paramecium. The other type of microorganisms are viruses. Viruses are microscopic but different from other microbes. Why they are different? Because they are considered as the border of the living and non-living. They can multiply and grow only inside the cells of a host, means cells of a living body. Example, plants, animals, or even bacteria. They can cause diseases in plants and animals. Viruses are responsible to cause the diseases in plants and animals. And viruses which cause diseases in plants and animals are known by the name of the disease it caused. For example, the disease is influenza, which is very common. It is caused by the viruses in human beings. Influenza virus causes influenza in human beings. The other diseases are polio, hepatitis, influenza, and some other diseases are also caused by the viruses. Nowadays, coronavirus is very common, and coronavirus causes COVID-19. And we all are familiar with these diseases, and we are also stay at home, do not go to school, or lockdown is also due to this virus to so it is a common example of nowadays it is a common example of viruses. Now, microorganisms are useful to human beings in many different ways. They are used in making food items, for preparing medicines, increasing soil fertility, cleaning of the environment, and other many uses. First of all, we discuss the use of microorganisms in food items. Microbes are very useful in making of curd, cheese, bread, and any other food items. Curd or plain yogurt contains a bacterium called Lactobacillus acidophilus. When a small amount of curd is mixed into a warm milk and kept aside for a few hours, the lactobacillus multiply in the milk and changes it to curd. Means when you add a small amount of curd into a warm milk, it will change the whole milk into curd, because the lactobacillus is a bacteria which is present in the curd starts multiplying due to the hotness of the milk, due to the warm milk, because microorganisms grow rapidly in warm. They need warm for growth. Okay, and cheese and paneer are prepared by using the bacteria Lactobacillus and Streptococcus. Yeast plays an important role in preparation of food items such as breads, pastries, and cakes. To make bread, flour, salt, sugar, and yeast cells are mixed into dough using water. Yeast produces rapidly and produces carbon dioxide during respiration. Due to production of carbon dioxide, the dough rises and its volume increases. When the bread is baked, carbon dioxide escapes, leaving behind pores that makes the bread porous and spongy. Now we have an activity, how we prepare a dough. Prepare a dough by mixing wheat, flour, water, sugar, and yeast. Keep it in a bowl and cover the bowl with a lid. Keep it in a warm place for 3 hours. Girls, you note that a warm place is necessary for the growth of microorganisms. Note the level of the dough in the ball after 3 to 4 hours. We will notice that increase in the volume of dough. The increased volume is because of the release of carbon dioxide by the yeast. Now, girls, this production of carbon dioxide due to the action of microorganisms produces a chemical change in animal and vegetable matter. This chemical change is called fermentation. The examples of fermentation are souring of milk, rising of bread. Now there is another activity for the process of fermentation, that is, we mix 1 spoon sugar and half a spoon dried yeast cells in warm water in a bowl thoroughly. Pour this mixture into the plastic bottle. Now fix a balloon on the mouth of the bottle containing solution as given. Take a drop and observe under microscope. When we observe this drop in microscope, we find the bacteria, we find the microorganisms in this cell. And when we leave this bottle for few hours, the volume of the mixture kept in bottle increases, the balloon inflates. If we pass the gas from inside the bottle into a test tube containing lime water, the lime water turns milky. It shows that the carbon dioxide produces in this solution, and the inflation of balloon indicates that the due to the production of carbon dioxide gas, balloon inflates. The use of microorganisms in food items are other examples of these food items are: a fungus called aspergillus is used to produce large quantities of citric acid used in the soft drinks. Some algae such as cholera, which is green algae, porphyra, which is marine algae, and seaweeds are eaten as food in many countries because they are rich in proteins and vitamins. Some bacteria live in the digestive tracts of cow and other plant-eating animals. These bacteria help these animals to break down cellulose because cellulose is a complex carbohydrate. To digest this cellulose, the cows and other plant-eating animals needs bacteria to digest it. Some species of fungi are edible. They are used as vegetables such as mushrooms. Useful microorganisms. The uses of microorganisms are also in medicine uses. making antibiotics. In medicines, microorganisms are used in making antibiotics. Certain bacteria and fungi are used to produce antibiotics. Antibiotics are the medicines that kill or stop the growth of disease-causing microbes are known as antibiotics. For example of antibiotics are streptomycin, erythromycin. The antibiotics are also used to control some diseases of animals and plants. Today, about 25 antibiotics are derived from molds for commercial. When we're sick, doctor give us antibiotics to treat our disease. Making vaccine. The other use of microorganisms in medicines is making vaccine. When our body is invaded by disease-causing microbes, these vaccines start to produce antibodies to fight and destroy those microbes. Now, what is a vaccine? A vaccine is a preparation of killed or weakened disease-causing microbes. These vaccines are harmful. These vaccines are introduced in the body of a healthy person, and at that time the body produces antibodies. Now, what are antibodies? Antibodies are the proteins which produced in our body by the vaccines when we are healthy, and these antibodies fight with the microorganisms when they enter in our body and causing diseases just like polio, tuberculosis, smallpox, chickenpox, etc. So these antibodies fight and destroy the microbes when they enter into our body. Fungi like yeast is used in the preparation of medicines such as vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex are the water soluble vitamins which are helpful in cell activities. They prevent infections, maintaining good health, and give energy. Certain types of bacteria live in the intestine of human beings, and they help to digest food, produce vitamins, and destroy the harmful organisms. Bacteria are also used to produce insulin. Insulin is a hormone which is used to treat diabetic patients. Now, the other use of useful microorganisms is increase soil fertility. Nitrogen is an important constituent of protein, chlorophyll, vitamins, and nucleic acid. So it is required by plants as well as animals. Nitrogen cannot be absorbed from the atmosphere directly by plants or animals. So it is the work of microorganisms that they fix nitrogen from the atmosphere to enrich the soil with nitrogen and increase its fertility. The examples of these bacteria are blue-green algae and Rhizobium bacteria. These microbes which fix the nitrogen are also called biological nitrogen fixers. The biological nitrogen fixers present in the soil convert atmospheric nitrogen to compounds of nitrogen which can mix with the soil. Roots of plants absorb these nitrogenous compounds to make plant proteins and other compounds. This nitrogen passes to the herbivores, means plant-eating animals, and from herbivores to carnivores and omnivores in the form of proteins. Bacteria and fungi act on the remains of dead plants and animal waste to decompose them. The microorganisms also decompose biodegradable waste to harmless and usable forms and help in the recycling of nutrients in the environment. They decompose plants and animal remains and increase soil fertility. Some bacteria are also used in sewage treatment where they help in the decay of waste organic matter. Thus, microbes help to keep the environment clean by acting the decomposed plants and by acting on the biodegradable waste or decomposed biodegradable waste of animals and plants. The other uses of microorganisms are some bacteria help in retching of crops and jute fibers, which are then converted into ropes. Some bacteria helps in treating and ripening of tea leaves, is giving its characteristics or and flavor. Bacteria are also used to produce leather from the skin of animals. Some algae, such as laminaria, are used as a food for sheep and cattle. Now, these are the uses of microorganisms. In these cases, the microorganisms are very useful. Microorganisms are also harmful to us. Many microorganisms are harmful to human beings, animals, and plants. These can be classified as disease-causing microorganisms and food-spoiling microorganisms. Disease-causing microorganisms cause diseases in human beings, plants, and animals. Such disease-causing microorganisms are called pathogens. So the pathogens are those microorganisms which cause diseases. Tuberculosis, cholera, chickenpox, malaria are some diseases caused by the pathogens. How they cause the diseases? Pathogens enter our person's body through air we breathe, water we drink, or the food we eat. Pathogens are also transmitted through direct contact with an infected person. They are also transmitted to an animal. When an infected person sneezes, thousands of causing viruses are released through the air, infecting the healthy people around. Now, listen, girls, this case is also in the coronavirus or COVID-19. That we should live in a social distancing because it can be transmitted through air. The diseases which can spread from an infected person to a healthy person through air, water, food, physical contact are called communicable diseases or infectious diseases. Okay, guys, the infectious diseases are those diseases which can be transmitted or spread through an infected person to a healthy person through air, water, food, or physical contact. So if any person who is suffering from a disease, we should not shake hand with them. The agents which transmit diseases causing microorganisms from infected person to healthy person are called carriers. Carriers are the agents which transfer the disease causing microorganisms. Some insects are also carriers of disease causing microbes. Examples: housefly and mosquitoes are the examples of carriers. The female Anopheles mosquito carries the malaria causing parasite. Housefly is an agent of many foodborne diseases. Some common infectious diseases which affect human beings are given in the table number 2.1, which is on page number 25 in your books. There are some diseases written over the common cold, chickenpox, rabies, cholera, tuberculosis, typhoid, diarrhea, and many other diseases which are caused by the pathogens microorganisms that are virus, bacteria, protozoans, fungi, and the agents which transmit these diseases as air, food, water, or even insects. And their preventive measures are also written here, that how we save us from these diseases by taking some preventive measures: washing hands regularly, covering nose and mouth while sneezing and coughing, avoiding close contact with people having common cold. Now, these preventive measures are also taken by us nowadays for protect us from the COVID-19. The preventive measures for chickenpox is vaccination and avoiding contact with the patient. And the preventive measures for tuberculosis: vaccination, isolation of the patient and the belongings of the patients. These are the preventive measures of different diseases which are mentioned on the page number 25 in table number 2.1. So, the microorganism not only affecting the human beings, but they are also affecting animals. Microorganism also causes diseases in animals. Some common diseases in animals are anthrax, foot and mouth disease in cattle. They are caused by the viruses. Foot and mouth disease is very common. When the Eid al-Adha is at the time of the Eid al-Adha, most of the animals are suffering from the foot and mouth diseases. It is caused by the virus. The pathogens not only affecting animals and human beings, they are also affecting plants. In plants, the plant diseases are rust, smut. In wheat crops, they are caused by the fungi, and citrus canker in the fruits. Oranges caused by bacteria. Apple scab is in apple caused by the fungi. These diseases reduces the yield of crops. They can be controlled by use of certain chemicals. These diseases can be controlled by the using of chemicals. So these are the harmful microorganisms which affecting animals and plants and human beings. Whereas the other harmfulness of microorganisms is food spoiling. Food spoiling microorganisms are those organisms which make the food spoiled and causing food poisoning. Food gets spoiled due to the action of microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi. Microorganisms and the availability of favorable conditions grow on food items and multiply. Now, what are the favorable conditions? Moisture, warmth, and air support the growth of microorganisms. So the food can be spoiled if they are placed in the warm place for a longer time, or they may be not in airtight jars. They can be spoiled. How they get spoiled? The microorganisms produces toxic substances. These toxic substances make the food poisonous and unfit for eating. If eaten, it can cause serious problems and sometimes even death. Symptoms is called food poisoning. The growth of harmful microbes on foodstuffs is indicated by how we know that the food is poisoning. If the food is spoiled, by feeling their odor, by taste, by the exchange of the surface color, by gas formation, or slimy or cotton like growth on the surface of the food. So food can be stored for a longer time. We can store the food for a longer time by different techniques, which we will study in other topic, that is the food preservation. Food preservation. How we preserve the food? Food preservation is a technique of treating food items to slow down or stop the growth of microorganisms, as well as maintaining the quality, flavor, color, and texture of the food items. So, food is preserved to use the food at another time. We can preserve the food by the following techniques: boiling, refrigerating, freezing, canning, using salt, sugar, oil, and vinegar, or by using chemical preservatives, drying. Boiling. Liquid food items are preserved by boiling. For example, milk. Milk can be preserved by boiling because boiling kills the microorganisms present in it. We also boil water to free the water from microorganisms or to kill the microorganisms present in the water. Milk is preserved by the method of pasteurization. Pasteurization in industrial industries. Pasteurization is a process which is discovered by Louis Pasteur. In this process, milk is heated around 70 degrees centigrade for 15 to 30 seconds and then suddenly chilled and packed in sterile bottles and packets. This helps in destroying harmful microbes without changing the composition, flavor, and nutritive value of the milk. Pasteurized milk is safe to consume even without boiling. Tetra packs is, for example, the Tetra packs are making by the pasteurization process. Number 2 is refrigerating or freezing. The spoilage of foods such as vegetables, meat, fruits, boiled milk, curd, cooked food can be preserved by keeping them at low temperature in refrigerators or deep freezer in cold storage. The temperature in freezers is kept below minus 18 degrees centigrade because microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi cannot grow in such low temperatures. Number 3 food preservation technique is canning. Many food items such as jellies, vegetables, fish, and some cooked food items are kept in airtight containers because microorganisms cannot grow in the absence of air. So canning is a good technique to preserve food for a longer time or to take food from one place to another by the help of canning. Number 4, using salt, sugar, oil, and vinegar to save the food, to preserve the food from microorganisms growth. We can preserve food by food by salting. Just like when we buy fish, first of all we sprinkle the salt on it to preserve it from the action of microorganisms. Because salt and sugar reduces the moisture and inhibits the growth of bacteria and fungus. Oils and vinegars are best known for preserving pickles. Some vegetables, fruits, fish, meat are also preserved in oil and vinegar for longer time. Use of chemical preservatives. Chemical preservatives are also used to preserve the food items. These chemicals are sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite to preserve the different food items such as ketchups and squashes. Drying is another method for food preservation. In this method, we remove the moisture from food items because microorganisms need moist conditions to grow, and dry conditions stop their growth. Food grains such as cereals and pulses are sun-dried after harvesting before their storage. The lack of moisture in seeds helps to store them for longer time. Advantages of food. The other and last topic of our chapter is advantages of food preservation. The advantages of food preservations are it helps in the availability of off-season foods. It prevents the food from getting spoiled by the action of microorganisms. It increases the storage period, and it ensures the availability of the perishable food materials, and chefs can offer unique products in off seasons. Food processed directly from the field retain higher vitamin and mineral levels. Preserved food is convenient and high in flavor due to preserving agents. So there are so many advantages of food preservation. Now listen class, now the girls, we have finished the explanation of chapter microorganisms, and in the last in next class I will give you notes. You have to copy down these I have to you have to copy down these notes. In next class I will give you notes. You have to copy down in your biology copies, and today's homework is to read thoroughly the whole chapter from the book. Thank you students, and Allah Hafiz.